How are you doing, men? Coach James, day 5 of the Masterclass, and today it's all about lower body. So what I want to go through is just simple warm-up. How do we get the body prepared to do lower body work? Meaning squats, deadlifts, lunges, even machine work, leg presses, leg extension, leg curls, these type of exercises. Again, one of the biggest mistakes I see when I go to other gyms is just men just walking on the treadmill, which is fine. It's going to raise your body temperature a little bit, get a little bit of a sweat on. But then just walking straight into doing barbell squats or going straight, you see some men at the gym going pretty much straight to the heaviest weight that they lifted, right? Whether it's for 6 reps or 10 reps. And you're waiting for absolute disaster to happen. And over the last 12 years of being a coach, when people come to me privately, when men come to me privately, it is, I'll hurt my back doing the deadlift, or I'll hurt my knee doing a squat. And 90% of the time, guys, it's probably the fact you've not warmed up. You've not moved through 3 key areas, and that is your spine, specifically your thoracic spine. You have not moved through your hips, and you've not got your ankle joint moved properly. So if you've not moved in, you've not got these 3 areas kind of moving and mobilized, warmed up, activated, then you will struggle. And if you put a heavy load on that, there's only a matter of time before something breaks. Okay, so to begin with, listen guys, walking on a treadmill, cycling on a bike, doing the cross trainer for 10 minutes is not preparing your body for lifting weights. So that must stop. Then if we take very simple movements to get your hips moving, get your thoracic spine, which is the upper part of your back, even your lower back moving, through the knees, through the ankle joint, if we get all that moving, and then we activate the muscle round about those areas, then you're going to feel much better as you go into your squat. Again, take it from someone who played football his whole life and who has to really work hard to get his body ready for lower body stuff, because my hips are tight, my ankles are tight, guys, from playing football and not stretching, all that stuff, right? Since 5 years old, playing football and never really stretching and doing flexibility work. But you can still get a lot done within like 10 minutes, let's say, of a warm-up. So if you know that your hips are tighter than your ankles, or your back doesn't quite feel right, then you would focus more on one area than what you would the other area, let's say, right? But I would bet for the majority of the guys watching this that most of these are pretty tight. You maybe played a sport before, you're in your 30s and your 40s, and the body just doesn't move the way it used to, okay? So if you've done any of my programs before, you will have seen this first move. We call it, here at Elite, we call it a Spider-Man with a rotation. Right, it's almost like Spider-Man just putting out a web. I think that's how it got its name. The way he climbs a building, right, kind of like this. So it's called a Spider-Man with rotation, and what this exercise, it's almost like a 3-in-1 or 4-in-1 in terms of what you're moving through with this exercise, in terms of moving through your hips, moving through your glutes, moving through your thoracic area, and actually moving through your chest as well as you do this exercise. So it's almost like a 4-in-1, this exercise, and this is why when I design training programs, it's always in there. When we warm people up here at Elite, it is always in there because it's a 4-in-1 almost. And after a few rounds of just doing this one exercise, you feel much better. So a thing that you can do, guys, if you always kind of feel stiff through your lower body, a good way to test initially what you're doing in terms of, so if you go into a squat, take a foot position which feels comfortable to you. I always like toes slightly out. Again, this just allows the ankle joint to move better, and you should be driving your knees out over your toes. Some people can squat like this, feet narrow, straight up and down. And just one note on that while I remember, guys, sometimes it's to do with your bone structure. Bone. Not to do with how inflexible or how much mobility you've got. Some people, the humerus, which is this big bone that runs here, the bone sits really deep into the socket, so the top part of the humerus. This is it's a ball and socket joint, the hip joint. And for some people, they have a very shallow hip socket in the humerus, the femur, not the humerus. The femur sits deep into that socket, and when they go to squat, there's not enough gap in between the hip socket itself and the femur bone coming up. It sits really deep in it, and there's not a lot of room to move, so it's almost blocked and restricted. And that's why some people, no matter how much stretching they do, how much mobility work they do, they can't get into a really, really deep squat and feet facing straight forward. They need to turn the feet out, which opens up here through the hip as well, which allows them to sit more comfortably into the squat. And that's the same as me. I've had x-rays done, and my left hip, the femur bone sits really deep. There's extra bone here at the top, so my squat has never felt really comfortable. You get some people just straight up and down. Another thing to know, you will see some people squat and it looks amazing, right? They've not even warmed up and they just fucking bump straight into the bar, straight up and down like a piston, like this. Look at something to look out for. What's their limb length? How big is their femur? How big is their tibia? So that's the bone at the bottom part of the knee. Although I'm short, I've actually got quite a long femur bone. And as I said, restricted on the left side. So don't beat yourself up. Do not beat yourself up if your squat or your movement patterns don't look textbook. But to go back to my original point, you must look to warm up as best you can, focusing on the areas that you know are a little bit tight. I know that was away in a wee bit of a tangent, but it's important to know, because sometimes you might train with someone, or you might see someone in the gym and you're judging yourself against that person in terms of how they move, and sometimes it's just, again, genetics. They have great bone structure, they have great limb length, and they're built for squatting. I see it all the time with guys here in the gym who've never fucking squatted in their life, and they're not very strong in the squat, but they go like this. No restrictions, no soreness, no nothing, straight up and down. Us older guys who've played the sport, a little bit restricted, need to focus on proper warm-ups. But again, you need to, you don't need to be there doing every single fucking exercise which is in the textbook of warming up, or every single exercise you see on YouTube. So let me narrow it down to a few for you. So watch in. The first one, as I said, is the Spider-Man with the rotation. So as you do this, as if you're going to do a push-up, you bring the foot to the outside of the hand as close as you can. here. You drop the back knee towards the floor, but don't place it on the floor. You should feel a big stretch through your glutes, the top of the hamstring. You will feel a stretch in the back hip. I'll turn round and I'll show you that. Now this same hand rotates, so you create a T position. Now what you can do is you can hang out in this position and you can move about a little bit, trying to keep the foot flat to the floor. You can move this about a little bit, like this. So I feel very stiff because I trained a little bit of legs yesterday. There, like that. You would bring that foot back, other foot in. Again, if you play the sport, you'll feel tighter on one side than what you do the other side. So again, you can stay there, then so what you would do is you would do kind of 10 reps, moving from side to side. Next time you go into it, you'll probably feel slightly looser.